What's the path going forward there? It's challenged by other teaching organizations and a teacher.
So here's the issue. What I would say is you're challenging it legally. Are you arguing that there's a constitutional right to have classroom instruction for first graders about things like transgender and gender ideology? I can't imagine that a court would accept that. Clearly on appeal, a court wouldn't accept that. So these are policy decisions. I don't think it's anything that's invoking First Amendment, because schools, states and localities have the ability to set curriculum in public schools. We do that all the time. This is not new. We require Holocaust studies and that be taught. There was a principal in this county, I think, that was not willing to do that or was denying that, and then that there was discipline, and there should be. Now, as a First Amendment matter, you can go on the street corner and say whatever you want about those issues, but in terms of when we get in school, we have certain standards and we want to uphold those standards. So I don't think that any of the legal claims have merit, but I am mindful. There are certain judges, if there's a cause du jour out there, they could potentially stretch the law to try to do that. I don't think that's going to happen in this case, but the bottom line is, we are going to defend this vigorously. I would also note, the law doesn't take effect until July 1st. So, I think obviously it's a law that's been shown when people have read the language. You have huge support across the board, regardless of party and regardless of a lot of different things. And I think it's going to be fine. But nevertheless, you can't say that anyone's been injured by it because it has not actually been put into effect. I would also say it's really focusing on what's appropriate for schools to do. It doesn't even regulate student speech. Like someone said, a student can't write an essay. They can do whatever they want. That's not what the bill does. But the bill does provide substantive protections for parents, which I think is very, very important, because there's a movement to say that somehow parents should just butt out of the schools. I think that that's wrong. I think it's important that they know what's being taught in schools and also what's being done vis-a-vis their students. I had a constituent from Leon County who was at our press conference when we signed the bill, and her daughter was in school up in Leon County, and some of the people at school decided that her daughter was really a boy and wanted to identify as a boy. So they changed her name, they changed her, quote, pronouns, they did these things without telling the mother, much less getting the mother's consent. And I'm thinking to myself, as a father of three young kids, to send your kid to school and have them take that type of action without your knowledge or consent, that is fundamentally wrong. And I can tell you, us parents, we're united on issues like that. We have a role. We're the primary role to play in the upbringing of these kids. And so I think that, the good thing about having a lawsuit like this is, you can do sloganeering in the media. You can put up, whatever you want in terms of political, even though it's false narratives, you can do that. But when you actually get inside of a courtroom, you're going to have to show what you're talking about. And the fact of the matter is, none of the criticism I've really seen has actually dealt with the substance of the bill. It's more about narrative that's been done to try to really advance more of a political agenda. Look, I think that I understand why the left is doing that. They're moribund in terms of their enthusiasm with the upcoming election. Obviously Biden has had a rough year plus of his presidency. You see that. There's not a lot of enthusiasm for what he's doing. So I think they're trying to find ways to kind of rev up the base a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, that's not going to fly when you get into a courtroom. So we'll be successful on that. All the stuff we've done, we always will get challenged no matter what we do. And sometimes in front of certain district judges, we know we'll lose no matter what because they're not going to follow the law. But we always win on appeal. And I think that I don't know if it'll even get to that point in this case, but certainly with the voting election integrity, that's going to be upheld. It's just a matter of when.
Do you plan on taking action against them, and is that, in essence, retaliatory, sir?
So the issue, someone said, hey, Disney has all these special perks. Should you retaliate against them for them coming out and demagoguing this bill? I don't believe you, quote, retaliate, but I think what I would say is, as a matter of first principle, I don't support special privileges in law. just because a company is powerful and they've been able to wield a lot of power. And we saw this last year when I did the big tech censorship legislation to give Floridians the ability to sue big tech if they're deplatformed or censored based on ideological reasons. Now that's being litigated. We're going to have an argument in the 11th Circuit next month. I think we're going to win on a lot of the key provisions of that, but that's to be determined. That's going through. At the 11th hour, when the legislature was doing this, Disney got them to put in a carve-out for theme parks for the big tech bill. And I'm thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. Honestly, it was embarrassing. But then I was in a situation, do I throw the baby out with the bathwater and veto the entire bill once it got to my desk? Or do I sign it, register my disagreement with that particular, because it really didn't affect the underlying structure. But that's an example of something that should have never been in the law, and that it would be totally appropriate to do it. So I think what has happened is there's a lot of these special privileges that are not justifiable, but because Disney had held so much sway, they were able to sustain a lot of special treatment over the years. Well, now I think the way with their conduct, and look, you see some of these people on the videos that they put out, some of these executives and what they're saying, and you're just like, are you kidding me? I mean, this is really, really crazy, some of the stuff that they're doing. And so I think that they've been dishonest about this. And I think what that's done is, you know, the left is upset at them, and now everyone else is upset at them. And so they've lost a lot of the pull that they used to have. And honestly, I think that's a good thing for our state, because the state should be governed by the best interests of the people. You should not have one organization that is able to dictate policy in all these different realms. And they have done that for many, many years. And if that stops now, which it should, that will be a good thing for Florida. And so I would say any special privileges that are in law, I would like to get rid of generally. But I think in this particular case with Disney, I just don't think you have very many people in the legislature anymore who are going to be able to defend a lot of what has been done over many, many years to really have them almost govern themselves in some of these things. You know, that was probably never appropriate to start, but it's certainly not appropriate now at this point. Okay, guys, thanks so much. It was great to be here.